The sun hung low over the Lagos skyline, casting a golden hue across the bustling city streets. Kemy adjusted her headscarf as she navigated her way through the crowds of Balogun Market, her woven basket swinging by her side. The aroma of fried puff-puff mixed with the sharp tang of fish dried under the relentless sun. But Kemy barely noticed. Her thoughts were elsewhere, spiraling in the vortex that had become her life. She was thinking of Chika. It had been 3 years since they'd met. The memory was still fresh, vivid as if etched into her soul. Kemy had been a shy vendor selling handmade jewelry at a small stall, hoping to make enough to send her younger brother, Deji, back to school. Chika had appeared like a scene from one of the Nollywood films she loved to watch. Tall, charismatic and charming, he had purchased a bracelet and stayed to chat. By the time he left, he had taken more than the bracelet. He had taken her heart. The first 6 months were a whirlwind of romance. Chika was attentive, generous and sweet. He would bring her akara in the mornings and sit by her stall, cracking jokes that left her gasping for air. He spoke of dreams and ambitions, of opening his own business and building a future for the two of them. Kemy had felt like the luckiest woman in the world. But the sweetness didn't last. It started small, almost imperceptibly. Chika would get annoyed over trivial things. A misplaced phone, a delayed response to a text. His voice, once soft and reassuring, turned sharp, cutting her like a razor. "Why can't you just listen, Kemy?" he'd say, exasperated. At first, she thought it was stress. He was struggling to secure funding for his startup and often complained about the pressure. She excused his outbursts, telling herself that every man had his flaws. After all, wasn't love about patience and understanding? The first real crack appeared one evening when Kemy forgot to buy suya on her way home. Chika had been waiting in her small one-room apartment. When she arrived empty-handed, his face darkened. "Do you even think about me at all?" he snapped. "I'm sorry, Chika," she stammered. "The traffic was terrible and I did—" "Excuses," he interrupted. "You're so useless sometimes, Kemy." His words stung. But when she saw the regret flash briefly across his face, she told herself it didn't mean anything. He was just tired, she reasoned. Later that night, he held her close, whispering apologies into her ear. "I didn't mean it, my love. You know how much I care for you." And just like that, the poison seeped in. Over time, Chika's criticism became a constant presence in Kemy's life. He had an uncanny ability to turn every situation against her.
If a business deal didn't fall through, it was because she hadn't prayed hard enough for his success.
If he misplaced his wallet, she must have moved it. "Why do you always make things so difficult for me?" he'd say, shaking his head. Kemy began to second-guess herself. She started apologizing for things she hadn't done just to keep the peace. Her laughter, once loud and unrestrained, grew quieter, cautious. She walked on eggshells, terrified of triggering his wrath. Yet there were moments of sweetness. Chika would surprise her with gifts. A new pair of earrings, a dress he thought would suit her. He would take her out to restaurants she could never afford on her own, pulling out her chair and calling her queen in front of the waitstaff. It was these moments that kept her tethered to him. One day, Kemy confided in her best friend, Aisha. They sat on the steps outside Aisha's family compound, watching children chase each other with sticks. "Kemy, this isn't love," Aisha said firmly after listening to her story. "A man who loves you doesn't make you feel small. He doesn't blame you for his failures. Kemy looked down at her hands, her fingers twisting the edge of her wrapper. But he's not always like that. Sometimes he's so kind. He says he wants us to have a future together. And what kind of future is that? Aisha's voice softened. One where you're always apologizing for things that aren't your fault? Where you're afraid to be yourself? Kemy had no answer. Deep down, she knew Aisha was right. But leaving Chika felt impossible. Despite everything, she loved him, and a part of her believed she could fix him, that her patience and love would bring back the man she had fallen for. The breaking point came on a rainy Friday evening. Kemy had spent the day at her stall, enduring the damp chill as customers haggled over prices. By the time she returned home, she was exhausted. Chika was already there, sitting on her threadbare sofa, scrolling through his phone. "You're late," he said without looking up. "I had to stay and sell a few more pieces," she explained, setting her basket down. He stood and walked over to her, his face a mask of anger. "You don't respect me, do you? Chika, what are you talking about? You knew I wanted us to have dinner together tonight, but you chose your silly beads over me."
Chika, I didn't. Before she could finish, he grabbed her arm. His grip was tight, and his eyes blazed with fury. "You always have an excuse, don't you?" Kemy froze, fear coursing through her. For a moment, she thought he might hit her, but instead, he released her with a shove and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. She sank to the floor, tears streaming down her face. In that moment, something inside her shifted. She realized that no amount of love or patience could change a man who refused to see his own flaws. The next morning, Kemy packed her belongings. It wasn't much: a few clothes, her tools for making jewelry, and the small savings she had hidden under the mattress. She left a note for Chika. "This isn't the life I want. I hope you find peace, but I can't stay to watch you destroy me. Goodbye." She moved in with Aisha temporarily, using the support of her friend to rebuild her confidence and her life. It wasn't easy. There were nights when she missed Chika, when the memories of his sweetness made her question her decision. But she reminded herself of the pain, the constant blame, the erosion of her identity. Months later, Kemy opened her own shop in Surulere. Her jewelry business flourished, and she found joy in creating pieces that brought smiles to her customers' faces. She began attending support groups for women who had survived toxic relationships, finding solace in their shared stories. One day, as she arranged a display of necklaces, a customer walked in. He was polite, kind, and genuinely interested in her work. His name was Kemy, and over time, he became a regular at her shop. Unlike Chika, he didn't dominate conversations or make her feel small. Instead, he encouraged her dreams and celebrated her successes. Kemy learned to love herself again before allowing anyone else into her heart. With Kemy, she discovered what a healthy relationship looked like. One built on respect, kindness, and mutual support. Looking back, Kemy realized that leaving Chika was the hardest and best decision she had ever made. She had escaped the sweetness of poison and found a life where her worth was no longer tied to someone else's approval. And for the first time in years, she felt free.